Hi everyone, this is Rita from XGeeks. It's nice to see you again for another one of our live streams. As you know, it's always exciting to have you on the other side. Before anything else, so if you're new here, welcome. We're very happy to see you here. If you've been in some of our latest live streams, welcome again. Great to see you again. And if you're watching us after the live stream, awesome too. So this is to let you know that we're super excited to have everyone joining us for today's talk, which is a quite awesome one, if I might say. As a reminder, if this is the first time that you hear about XGeeks, let's talk about XGeeks very shortly. XGeeks is an engineering company focused on providing capacity to product companies. We're not the typical projects company due to a huge focus on community, a strong engineering culture, and a product drive. And I could be here talking the entire live stream about it, but we have some other cool stuff to tell you, so I'll spare you that one. But this to tell you that XGeeks represents the balance, what we believe, a great balance between projects and products. And our teams working now across Portugal work in building products while dealing with a broad stack. And if you want to know more about what we've been up to, our company, our team, open positions, our content, and what we've been up to actually, so follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Medium. I think we're a bit biased, but we do some cool stuff there, so you can feel free to also follow us there. And with no further ado, I want to introduce you to our today's speaker, which is Ivar. Ivar is the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. He's a Java champion and a Jug leader based in Sweden. And Ivar will talk about Jakarta EE 10, and this is the third release of Jakarta EE since the transition from the Java community process to Eclipse Foundation. And in this session, we'll go through every aspect of Jakarta EE 10 and how this release lowers the barriers of entry, eases the migration, and lays the foundation for a platform for future innovation. And there will also be a demo, so quite exciting. But with no further ado, let's go to business. And I'll move not only the mic, but also the stage to Ivar. And just as a final remark before I introduce Ivar to this our session, is that if you have any questions for Ivar, you can feel free to leave them in our chat. We'll be happy to address them not only during the session, but also afterwards. And having this said, and now this is the official welcome to Ivar. Nice to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rita. I'm happy to be here. It's pretty cool to be able to do this stuff, even though it would be much better to be out at a conference and seeing everybody in person. You're getting kind of used to doing this stuff at home now, but
yeah, now it's the new normal, as they say, right? So we're getting used to that.
yeah.
But thank you so much once again, Ivar. So I'll leave you the stage, and if you want to, I can add your screen to our stream if you'd like to.
Yeah, sure. Please do share my screen.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, welcome to this talk that I've called "Get Ready for Jakarta EE 10." And my name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. And here are some of my details. You can follow me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or GitHub. And as you can see, I'm pretty much involved in what's happening in open source around Java and enterprise Java with the Java community process, where I'm serving in the executive committee there, representing the Eclipse Foundation. And I'm heavily involved in Jakarta EE and also somewhat involved in Apache with the NetBeans project there. And I run my Java user group here in Sweden. So the stuff I'll talk about today is give you some background, and yeah, there will be code, and as you saw from the first one, that's kind of the marketing thing. They like these tag code things. So, but this is Java code we will be showing. So we will be doing some Jakarta E9, and then I'll go through what's coming and give you some pointers and some teasers about what's coming in Jakarta E10. And for those that don't know what Jakarta EE is, I'll give you the very short version about how Jakarta EE started and why we are where we are. And as you know, we used to be called Java EE and we're governed by the Java community process with Oracle. And back a couple of years ago, or actually quite a few years ago, in 2017, I think it was, Oracle decided to donate the Java EE source code, both for the specifications, the tests, and the implementations, over to Eclipse Foundation, where we formed the EE for Java projects. And from these, we produced the Jakarta EE specifications. And our webpage is jakarta.ee. It's super simple to remember. Just type jakarta.ee in your browser, and that's where you get started. And you can find all the information regarding Jakarta EE, how to get involved, how to contribute, and all the information about the specifications there as well. Jakarta EE is all about the specifications, and we like to call them very open specifications. And to facilitate this, we have the Jakarta EE specification process. And the Jakarta EE specification process is very similar to how it was done in the JCP. But we want to switch over to a code-first approach, meaning that we want to have some implementations out there that do some cool stuff. And when people find it useful, bring it into Jakarta EE as a specification. And it's very collaborative. Everybody can join. It's free to join. If you just want to contribute to a specification, the only thing you need to do is sign the Eclipse contributor agreement and then go ahead and do it. And it's very straightforward. Just register an account at eclipse.org and sign the ECA, and you're good to go. Everything is open source. You can contribute to the writing the documents, writing the APIs, writing the test suites. Everything is open source. And we also have the concept of compatible implementations. So there is no reference implementations of Jakarta EE anymore. We have multiple compatible implementations. And we also do have the self-certification. So you can, if you have a product that you pass all the tests, you kind of publish the test results on the web and show us them. And then you can get the compatibility logo, given some other stuff you also have to do. But that's kind of the gist of it. This is a kind of a overview of the process. And as you see, it's very typical development process. You have some proposals, you do some planning, you do some dev, then you release it. And to kind of lock in the IP and make sure that everything is all right and there are no issues everywhere, we have these reviews scattered around. So we do some creation review, plan reviews, progress review, and release review. And that is what the Jakarta EE Working Group Specification Committee is doing. So that's kind of the same thing as the JCP Executive Committee we're doing for Java EE. That's what we're doing for Jakarta EE. So what is the specification then? We usually have a specification document. Some specs like to do it in Java docs, so they just write the specification doc in the code. It's usually an API as well. And there is a test suite or TCK, test compatibility kit, to test that an implementation is implementing the API. And it also verifies that the API and the specification is implementable. And that is what we have compatible implementations for. In order to release a specification or make it final, you have to prove that it is possible to do it. So you need to have a compatible implementation that passes the TCK and shows that the API and spec document is possible to implement. And then you can release a final specification. And this is what is done in the released review in the specification committee. So what about compatible implementations then? Currently, I grabbed this picture this morning from the website. There are, I think it's 19 or something, compatible implementations out there. And these are for all versions. It's for Jakarta EE 8, 9, and 9.1. And that brings us into Jakarta EE 9 and Jakarta EE 9.1. And 9.1 was released earlier this year. And it is it is Jakarta EE9 specifications, but verified for Java SE11. So you can run your product with Java SE11 and run the tests on 11. So because for EE9 we had to limit it to SE8 since the TCKs are kind of complicated to get to work. But they did a good job and were very well kind of set for the future to go more aggressive on the Java SE versions, as I'll show later in this presentation. There were key focus areas. There are three key focus areas of Jakarta EE901 was to lower the entry barriers, which means we want to make it easier for new implementations to come in. And as you saw the list presented, there were some new players there, and these are able to come into the ecosystem since we're removing some of the legacy stuff that is kind of cumbersome to implement. We established it as a platform for innovation. And one of those things we did there was to open up the signature tests in the TCK to make it easier to move faster with the Java SE versions. Previously, we were kind of tied into the SE version that we were using for the first certification run, but now we are able to run the TCK from newer versions. And this is kind of one of the prerequisites for getting more adoption of the platform. We also wanted to make the migration easy. And when I'm talking about the migration, it's of course the namespace change from javax to Jakarta. And in order to do that, we didn't add changes into the specs from EE8 to EE9. And this is solely because we wanted the migration with a namespace to be as easy as possible. And the Jakarta EE9 and 9.1 is available now. There are lots of implementations. You can go to jakarta.ee/compatibility/download and get the version of the vendor of choice there. And the vendors that have certified on 9 or 9.1 are all these. So you can choose between Apache Tommy, Pusic, BES, Glassfish, InfoSuite, ManageCat, OpenLiberty, Payara, TongWeb, or Wildfly. And there are more coming as we speak, but these are the ones that are currently certified on 9 and 9.1. And you can find all these under jakarta.ee/compatibility. So the namespace. And let's look a little bit closer on the namespace and see what this is all about. And to do that, I've prepared a little demo. And in this demo, I'm going to take an application and transform it from javax to Jakarta, and I'll do it in a lot of different ways. So I'll show you there is not one single path to do this. I'll show you the manual approach, and then I'll show you some tooling around it afterwards. And to help me with that, I have a application I've called Complete Duke, and I'll run it on Glassfish 5.1, which is Jakarta EE8 first, just to show you that it runs and all the stuff it's in there. And then I'll migrate it to and run it on Glassfish 6.2, which is Jakarta EE 9.1. And the application I'm using is a typical Hello World application. And as a developer, we don't want to do things simple. So where I could have just returned the text "Hello World" or "Howdy Jakarta EE9," as I'm saying here, I wanted to do a real architecture here. So I've added a REST layer that produces the JSON message, and I put out an email and a message. And I have a service layer or business service using Jakarta Enterprise Beams that calls into a repository layer using Jakarta Persistence to retrieve the message from a database. And also, just for the fun of it, threw in a Jakarta CDI extension that prints a nice message in the log file to the sysadmin. So let's go and look at this code. And first of all, I'll open the, it's not this POM file. I'll open the POM file for the complete Duke. And as you can see, it's a typical Jakarta EE POM file. It's very small. It actually has one dependency, and that is the Jakarta EE dependency. And you can see I'm using Jakarta EE version 8 here. The code. We have created some stuff. Let's go and look at the REST endpoint first. And you can see here it has the path hello. It injects an EJB that it calls to find a greeting, and then it produces JSON from this. And let's look at the enterprise bean. And this is a stateless session bean, which, as you can see with this stateless annotation, it uses a repository class that it goes through a stream of all the stuff it finds in the database, finds the first one, and if there aren't the first one, I'll just print a high undefined message. And the repository has a find all method, and you can see it is a CDI bean with a dependent annotation, so it kind of inherits the scope from the calling bean, and injects the Jakarta persistence context, and uses this to query for all messages in the database, and the actual greeting object it returns is a persistence entity, and it is using the greeting table, and it has a couple of columns, the ID, message, and email, and it just has getters and setters for that. So it's pretty simple. The configuration of the application is just a simple empty class here. And then if you noticed in the resource, I had this Dukes annotation, and this and the Dukes annotation is an annotation I've created here. It just has a message, and it has this CDI extension that logs the message that it is put in the hello results, which is hi there. So it says hi there to the sysadmin recently, and it will do it on the when annotation is processed. So that's my application. Let's convert this one to Jakarta EE 901. And 1.0. Save it. I'll update my project. So here I'm doing the manual approach. I'll do the more an automated alternative afterwards. But what you'll see now is that it starts to get compilation errors. And I'll just go here and use the IDE to just fix. And you can see the IDE fixes most of them. But where there are kind of name conflicts, and you see faces and EJB has the same application scope. So there you have to be careful to select the correct one. And in other cases, it will be able to replace everything. Here you can see extension is very extensively used, which is very no pun intended. But you can see some of them are more used than others. Persistence, I'm just using a star, so that's okay. This is everything. The repository class, let's see here. And fixes all. So you see, it's kind of a manual. Of course, you could do this with search and replace as well, but you have to be careful. You cannot take everything javax, because there may be some, for example, some SQL classes or something that aren't that are still part of the JDK. So it's not part of Jakarta EE. So you have to be a little careful. So you cannot replace everything just straight off. You have to know what you're doing and replace the ones that make sense. But in this application, which is fairly simple, it didn't take that long. So now I've done all of them. And you should think that you were pretty much done now. And I've done all the Java source code, and it compiles. But in Jakarta EE, you also have some configuration here and there. And if you remember the CDI extension, that is in a file, text file called javax enterprise inject SPI extension under the meta-info services folder, where I have the class path or the qualified name to the extension class. This file name needs to be renamed, and you rename it also here by replacing javax to Jakarta. So you see, if you do a text change in files everywhere, it's not enough. There are some files that need change as well. And then we have the persistent XML, which is the configuration of the data source. And here are some changes as well. In Jakarta E9 and 9.1, persistent is version 3.0. And also the jcp.org namespace has been changed. So, and to make it easy for us, we've introduced HTTPS, and then it's Jakarta.ee, and then the rest is exactly the same as the JCP XML namespaces. So here you can see what I have to change. This is also simple search and replace and fairly quick to do. So you can automate this as well. And if you're lucky, your application server won't care about the namespaces. Not everybody is very picky, but some of them are. And you can see what we follow the practice from Java EE, that the file name of the schema includes the version number. So you're always sure you get the right schema. And here you can see it actually helps you validate and says, hey, this version attribute is wrong. It should be 3.0. Now it validates correctly. And another thing you can notice is these properties for Jakarta persistence also has the javax namespace. So this has to be switched to Jakarta as well. And you actually get a code completion when you have the schema in the XML file. So that's a good reason to use the schemas. There. So we've changed the Java code. We've changed the XML namespaces. We changed the property files. We changed the bootstrap files. Now we should be ready to go. And just as I said that, I actually realized that I never ran this application in 5.1, but that's a little bit too late now since we already changed it. And with Jakarta version, you won't be able to run it. But what we'll do is to deploy it to 6.2. And we'll take the complete Duke war file, add it to the server, and deploy it. And while it deploys, we'll have a look in the log and see here. Let me see if anything is happening. Deploy. There you go. Oh, it's still building. Sorry. So here you can see it's building, and you can see the message here. Duke says hi there. So that's the CDI extension being picked up in the by the Jakarta named file. So everything looks pretty good here. It seems like it's working. So let's go and check out the server. And this is Glassfish 6.2. The only difference between the 5.1 is it's changed to glassfish.org here, and it's also by the Eclipse Foundation. And the application is called complete Duke hello, and you can see it works. Or does it? Because it says EE8. I thought we had moved to EE9. And there is one more thing you need to change things, or potentially have to change things. In my case, it's a stupid message, so it's not that hard to do. But it could be other things that you're actually doing um, some some concatenation of strings that is being built to be some property that are using the javax name, and then you're kind of screwed there. But in my case, it's just the greeting, and that greeting is just using straight up. But if this had been a property, then I would have had uh, to fix that concatenation, and then I could have other serious problems. So I'll just update this one to 9.1 and commit it to the database. And now it should be able to read it and give us the correct message. To recap very quickly, what I did manually to do this, and in many cases you may find out that manual is probably the easiest way of doing it. That is to update the Jakarta EE version in the POM, fix all the imports, then the XML schema namespaces, and then the property files that are prefixed with javax. And then if you have any bootstrapping files like the CDI extension I had here, and then you may have some dynamic properties or data in your database that you need to update as well. And this sample is on my GitHub. The link is here. So you can go and try it out. And it has this kind of tutorial style. So you can do this step by step if you want to check it out. But what if you don't want to do this manually? Or what if you don't have access to the source code? Well, there's hope for you anyway, because we have something called transformation. And there are, as far as I know, two tools out there. And that is the Eclipse Transformer, and it's the Apache Tomcat migration tool. And I'll demo both of these now. And to do this, I'm using another application. It's called the Transformer Duke. It also is based on EE8, and it is exactly the same application as we had for Complete Duke. It just has another name. And to prove that this is a Jakarta EE Jakarta 8 application, I'll deploy it in an 8 in Glassfish 5.1 first. So let's take Transformer Duke here, just add it, and then deploy it. There you go. And let's see if this works. This is something I didn't test before, so it's always kind of exciting. And let's look at the log files. You can see it's parsing and doing some stuff here. It's building, and it's deploying it. There could be an issue here, but it seems to be working. So it says hi there. And let's also look at the server to see that it's actually doing more big hello. And it says howdy and transform to Jakarta EE9. And why does it say 9 here? Well, that's because this one has a inserts, so it inserts Jakarta EE9 in the database, so it's kind of overrides the change I did manually. So if I refresh this one, it will say 9 as well. But yeah, you get it. So it works in 8. So let's transform this one to Jakarta EE9. And to do that, I'll just shut this down. I'll open the terminal. I'll do this command line style. And what I've done here is let me see there. Here I've downloaded two tools here, the Eclipse Transformer and the Tomcat Jakarta EE migration tool. And let's first look at the Eclipse Transformer. And here there is a jar. So the way I run this one is java-jar org Eclipse Transformer, and that's it. And it gives me you have to put some input, some output, and some options if you want to do that. So it feels pretty simple. Same way, the Jakarta migration tool comes with a README file and stuff. In the bin folder, there is migrate.sh. It also comes with integration into Ubuntu if you want to run it on your Linux. Or I can just run the migrate.sh, and you see you can run it with different profiles depending on your type of application. And it also has the source and the destination, very similar to the Eclipse Transformer. So let's run both these on the Transformer Duke. Build it first, so we know that it's been done. And when it's been built, let's go and look at it. So this is a Jakarta EE application. And you can see it has the transformer Duke.war here. So let's take the Eclipse transformer and run it on the transformer Duke.war and see how the output comes. So the Eclipse transformer was java-jar. And now I have to write some here. Transformer, Eclipse transformer, org Eclipse transformer. The input is transformer Duke.war, and the output is transformer Duke Eclipse war. You can see here it did some changes in some files, some output, and now I have a transformer Duke Eclipse .war. What I also want to do is just run the Tomcat tooling directly as well, so we can compare them. And that had the migration script, so I have to just take the path to the transformer Jakarta migration, then migrate sh, and then profile is a EE, and then the input is the transformer Duke.war, and the output is transformer Duke. Let's go to Apache war. So it has a migration completed. Doing this and list it. So you see, I have now three versions of the war file here. So let's unzip these two I transformed. Unzip transformer Duke Eclipse.war in a folder called transformer Duke Eclipse. Do the same with the Apache. To the transformer Duke Apache. There we go. So now I've unzipped it here, and I'll open these in IntelliJ here. So I have under my target folder. You can see the original transformer Duke. Let's look at this. It has the javax imports, right? So if we take a look at the transformer created by the Tomcat migration tool, let's go and look at the same class, the Duke's annotation, and here you can see it is transformed it to Jakarta. So it has done the bytecode transformation from javax to Jakarta for you. So I have the same source code. It's just done it on bytecode level. And the same way the Eclipse transformer does the same thing. And you can see here it's done to the Jakarta. Now, what's more interesting is to see what's happened with these marker files. For example, the CDI extension. Here you can see the Apache tooling has renamed this one to Jakarta, so this will work. The Eclipse tooling has also renamed this file, so this should also work. Let's look at the persistent XML. I happen to know that the namespace won't be translated, so I've just commented that out, and I'm going without namespaces. And this is the Apache tooling. You can see the properties are updated to Jakarta persistence, so that will work. For the Eclipse tooling, it doesn't do the properties. So there are some things these tooling don't fix for you, and some things they do fix. And another good news is that if you don't want to do this on code level, many of the vendors actually include some version of these transformers in their application servers, so you can drop a Jakarta EE8 application into the application server, and it will do the transformation for you. That was the transformation tools. But there are more options, and depending on which IDE you're using, the IDE can help you as well. And the IDE I'm using here, IntelliJ, actually has support for migration to do it for you. And I'll demo this as well. So I'll take the transformer Duke here and just check it there. You can see it's a javax all the way. I'll do go in and take the POM file, and what I want to do here is I want to add the dependency of the Jakarta E9. So I'll just copy the 148. The group ID and artifact is the same, and I'll just update it to 9110. So I've added both dependencies in the POM. That's the only source code change I have to do. Then I can take a refactor on my menu, choose migrate, and here you can see there are different things I can do, but I can take Java EE to Jakarta EE, and you see it will change the Jakarta imports. And just run this one. And this is pretty cool, because here it'll see it will take my source code, and I'll just do the refactoring. And you see here in my class, it's not changed to Jakarta. This is the same manual thing I did. And it didn't take my CDI extension. So this is something manual I have to fix. And it didn't do my my properties. So it helps you with the source code and does all the import statements, and it will do it correctly and safely for you. So if you want to use this tool, you can do it. Otherwise, do it manually. So why should I even care doing this namespace transformation? Or why should I care at all about what Jakarta EE does? What if I'm, of course, if you're using Jakarta EE and you want to upgrade from 8 to 9 or 10, you have to do it. But what if I don't use this stuff? What if I'm using something else? Why should I care? Well, I'll show you. A week ago or a couple of weeks ago, this is from the Spring blog. And as you see here, Java 7 and Jakarta E9 is the baseline for Spring Framework 6. So if you're using Spring, you should care. You have to do it. You are going to update to the Jakarta namespace, so you can just start doing it. So they are announcing this, and it will be in. You have plenty of time to do this. It's no hurry or anything, because it's in Q4 2022 is when Spring 6 is scheduled to be delivered, along with Spring Boot 3. But they've already started. So you can see in the Spring Framework GitHub that they have done the migration there. And if Spring can do it, you can see there are 1,291 files in this commit that is doing the namespace change. And if Spring can do it, then you can do it as well. So it's just to get started with it. Or if you're using something else like Jetty or Tomcat or Hibernate or any other popular open source tool out there, they're also going for the Jakarta namespace. So it's just to get going with it. So that was a lot about Jakarta EE 9 and 9.1. Let's speed up a little and look at what's happening after 9. And after 9, that's 10. And Jakarta EE 10 is scheduled in first quarter of next year. So between January and March, Jakarta EE 10 should be available. And we're currently in the development phase. Some specs have produced milestones. We are expecting to start the release reviews of the individual specifications in October 15. So that's pretty soon now. It's like it's less than a month away. And as I said, the final specification version of the platform should be out there in Q1 2022. And Jakarta EE 10 will look something like this, and you can see all the blue ones are getting updates. So most of the specs, or at least a little bit more than half of them, are getting updates. Many of them are major updates, and you can see that by it's a 3.0, 4.0, and some major updates. You can see the .1 releases here. There's one new spec, config, and it has a little star behind it because they haven't really produced a plan yet. So it may be that they are not making it to Jakarta EE 10. Then it will probably be a 10.1 or 11 that config will be a part of. And CDI Lite is also a sort of a new spec, or is a part of CDI. So that's also marked in a different color. The gray ones aren't being updated at all. And if you gray out the ones on the side here, we're left with the ones that will be part of the web profile, because we have profiles in Jakarta EE. We have the platform, which is all specs, and then we have the web profile, which is specs that are more targeted on web development and a little smaller runtimes. And you can see here, it's also half of the specs are being updated for the web profile. And if we kind of take away the ones that are very targeted on web applications, we're left with the ones for smaller microservices or headless applications, REST endpoints. And that is what is going to be the new Jakarta EE 10 core profile. And core profile is something new in all the Jakarta EE versions up until now. We've had the platform and the web profile, and now we're introducing the core profile. So let's dive into core profile and look at it. And one of the kind of keywords on core profile is that it's targeting smaller runtimes. And by smaller runtimes, we're thinking of we could possibly have runtimes like Helidon, Quarkus, or Micronaut being compatible and certified on Jakarta EE core profile. Let's look at some of the specs and start with config. So Jakarta config will provide portable configurations from environment-aware resources. And you can find all about config under jakarta.ee/specifications/config. And if you're familiar with the microprofile config, you will see that this is exactly the same. And there is actually a project setup called Jakarta config that is working together with microprofile config and figuring out a way of doing this in the best way possible. And they have weekly meetings. You can join them and or join the mailing list and see what's going on there. But it's basically provide the same functionality as microprofile config does now. And the thought is down the road, retire microprofile config, and microprofile will consume the core profile and then get configuration from there. CDI Lite is also a new specification, and CDI Lite is designed to work in more restricted environments, and you can find it under Jakarta EE/specification/CDI. And they will provide some new extensions API, maybe change the beans XML default behavior. The entire thing about it is to make away the more dynamic features of CDI, so it's more suitable for being compiled to native using technologies like GraalVM. The RESTful Web Services was originally planning for a 4.0 release, but had to settle for a 3.1. And 3.1 will update the API with the features requested from the community, and also maintain the backwards compatibility. And you can find more about this at Jakarta EE/specification/RESTful-WS. And one of the things they are looking at is to deprecate the at context, so and kind of use the CDI add inject for the REST specific resources, and also some other things they're having on the agenda for 3.1. The JSON specs are doing smaller community requested features. Nothing very large coming there. It's things that will make life easier for developers, but nothing very big coming there. And as you can see from the minor releases, and the annotations, interceptors, and dependency injection will stay as they are for 9.1. So let's look at some of the interesting specs from the web profile. And I won't go through all of this, I promise you that. But let's look at security, which is probably the one that is doing the most work. And they are planning a security 3.0 release. And the goal for this release is to add features that they didn't have time for in the 1.0 and 2.0 releases, and evolve the API to make it a modern security solution. And you can find everything about it at Jakarta EE/specifications/security. And the stuff they are thinking of there is to add additional authentication mechanisms. And the three they're looking at is client certification and digests, OpenID Connect, and OAuth 2. So we'll finally get support for that in Jakarta EE as well. They also want to extend the authentication mechanisms, so you can have one authentication mechanism per URL in your application, which is more flexible than it is today, where it's per application. You can also have a user choice of authentication mechanism, so you can kind of use one mechanism for one endpoint for logging in, and one endpoint for one authentication mechanism for doing something else. And also support for multiple authentication mechanisms being configured. And they also want to do some CDI integration, have an alternative to act roles allowed, and some support for interceptors. Other things for EE10. Well, Java SE versions. And for Jakarta EE10, we are going to compile all the APIs, or allow for language levels for Java SE 11. So everything up to Java SE 11 can be used in the API classes. And the APIs will be compiled with Java SE 11 to Java SE 11. The TCK, however, will be run with Java SE 11 and above. So we want to make sure that an implementation can certify its product using, for example, Java SE 17. And that means that app developers, that means you can use Java SE 17 features in your applications if you want to, and if your runtime supports it. And the key here is that we are making sure the TCK runs with SE11 and above. So the vendors that will certify on 11 can do that to support their existing customers, and those who want to have a version of the product also run on 17 to attract younger, newer, more dynamic developers, they can do that as well. And we as developers can use all the 17 features we want. It doesn't really matter that the APIs are compiled to 11. So you may say, even though we're restricting the APIs to compile to 11, we are supporting 17. And as you probably know, the Java SE Security Manager is marked for deprecation in Java SE 17. So we will add some language in the specification that there will be a strategy in the future for how to cope with the missing security manager when it is removed from Java SE. We also want to look at the release cadence. This 10 release is coming out approximately a year after 9. And 9 was approximately a year after 8. And with the newly announced LTS 2-year cadence from the Java SE team, it's becoming interesting to look at kind of getting some sort of piggyback on that, if it's every 2 years or every years, or how we align our major releases with the LTS releases. So it will definitely be something we will be discussing in the future. We're also starting with decoupling the TCKs. And that means that we have a running goal. It's not a goal for 10 that we should be done with this, but for 10 we should be able to support those specifications that want to couple out their TCK from the major one and have a system that we can pull it back in, so we can run the TCK with confidence and be sure that we don't break anything, but at the same time have the flexibility of the specification teams to maintain their own TCK. So to sum up, Jakarta E9 lowers the entry barriers. It's a platform for innovation, and it's facilitating easy migration. The major thing with 9 is the javax to Jakarta namespace. And Jakarta E10 is coming. It's very imminent. It's coming in Q1 2022. And start looking at Jakarta.de for updates for how it's going with this platform and this release. So Jakarta.de is the place to go. We have a blog aggregator currently at jakartablogs.de, and you can also visit my hashtag Jakarta EE, which is the weekly update for what's happening in the Jakarta EE community. So with that, I thank you very much for listening, and I hope there are some questions.
Thank you, Ivar, for such a great presentation. As Ivar said very well, so if you have questions, this is a great timing for you to put them in our chats so that Ivar can give us all these insights and go through all those questions if you have them. So go ahead. Ivar, thank you for such a great presentation. So also Anbu also enjoyed it. So thank you, Anbu, for joining us on YouTube this time and for attending today's session.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and look forward to seeing you all in person in the near future. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ivar. It was nice to not only to meet you, but to hear your insights. And everyone actually really enjoyed it as well. So that's awesome. Thank you, Ivar. And have a good rest of your day. And everyone that joined today's session, thank you so much for joining as well. We hope to see you in the next ones. And have a good rest of your week. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.